Now you can perform in front of 100 people. Somebody records it, takes it out of context, puts it online, and then 33 million Malaysians, or at least 2 million Malaysians, get upset and offended by what you've just said.
This is Shock Life Confessions podcast with me, Reza Abraham. Our guest today is a multi-award winning comedian, actor, producer, director, and host. He won the Asia's Best Stand-Up Comedian Award 2014, Funniest Person in the World competition in 2016, and Ambassador for Culture and Tourism, Malaysia. He has also played in over 13 films, 11 TV series. He got his own Netflix special, I Told You So. He's also the co-founder of the Hope Branch to help homeless, single parents, OKU, B40, and marginalized communities in Malaysia. So let's welcome the godfather of stand-up comedy in Malaysia, Harith Iskander.
Thank you. 13 films, how do you know that?
We do our studies.
If you ask me right now what the 13 films are, I'd probably come up with 5, and the rest I'll be like, oh yeah, I was in that one. Oh yeah, I was in that one
so
too.
That shows how long have you been in this place.
I'd like to go to a movie one day and just sort of sit there and suddenly go, hey, that's me. Okay, there you go. But thank you anyway for that introduction.
Most welcome. Pleasure is all ours. When I first came to Malaysia about 17, 18 years ago, I think you were among one of those like very first Malaysian that I got to know.
Okay.
You had that recognizable face, something like, it's your branding that you have, so would you like to share with us a little bit, like, where does that come from? What is basically like, whose idea was that to start the conversation?
Well, so you're talking about the bald head. Yeah.
That's a hairstyle, right?
Actually, that, if I remember correctly, that was not planned. But when it came along, I just realized at one point I was already in my early 30s. I remember I was shooting a film, Hanya Kawan, one of the 13. And I had written, directed, and I was acting in it. And I was watching a playback, which the camera was behind my head, and I saw it starting to thin. And so, because that's a part of the head you never see. And then, so I just decided around that time to shave my head. And what helped it along was a part that I got in the film Anna and the King, which was a Hollywood movie, which was shot in Malaysia.
Yes.
99.8% shot in Malaysia, in Ipoh, in Penang, in Kuala Lumpur and all. And I got a part in it. So I was on the set for 16, what's 4 times 4? 16 weeks, yes. Yeah. Math's not very good, huh?
Yeah.
Minta maaf.
But you didn't have your signature beard at that point.
So as I played the bodyguard to Chow Yun-fat, who played the king.
Okay.
So I was his bodyguard. So the bodyguards all had this sort of bald look with just a little bit of hair here. By the way, Chow Yun-fat is 6'4".
Okay.
I'm 5'7.5". I play his bodyguard. So Hollywood, keeping it real.
Sure.
But so because I was forced to shave my head over those 4 months, after the film, I just decided to keep it. And then this came along. And so basically, it wasn't a case of planning. It just, the dominoes drop into place, and then
the feedback you get is like...
I just know. You know what? Honestly, it just became a thing of, oh, wow, I don't have to buy shampoo or conditioner. I just shave every couple of days. And it just became a thing. So the thing is, my kids, who are 12, 8, and 10, have never seen me with hair or without a beard. So one day I'm going to shave my beard and then wake them up and have them scream. Okay, there you go. So to answer your question.
That's great. That's great. So when you're thinking about your upbringing, what are the memories that you really dear to you? You still think about it and bring a smile to your face?
Slightly different generation, pre-hand phone, everything days. You had the home phone with the rotor dial. And then when you made an appointment, you kept it. So on Tuesday, you'd say to your friends, okay, I meet you at Ampang Park at 2 o'clock. And then you just met them at Ampang Park at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you had to leave your home at 9 a.m. to catch the bus to make sure you got there, you just did it. So, and then we would play after school. We just play out on the road, like literally parents to say, you play out on the road and just come back when it's dark. So we just ran around on the road, we played football, went to the jungle, caught fighting spiders.
Where was it?
I grew up in Ulu Klang, in Jalan Ulu Klang, Ampang area. And I do remember this. My mother and my father worked. My mother worked in an office in Dunlop. And the rule was, do not call for any reason. Don't disturb your parents with a call. If the house is on fire, put it out. Whatever, You're getting kidnapped, work your way out of it. So, right? As opposed to now, it's like the parents are like giving the kids, where are you?
They even have a watch, that's controlling where they are.
Where you're going.
What changed, actually? Like, this is something that, even I have two small boys. I'm still thinking about it. Last time parents weren't that worried about, what...
It's like, just go out and do your... I'm not a sociological scientist, but even I'm a parent now, and we have those concerns. To be honest, a little bit too mollycoddled, in my opinion. So I went to government school. I didn't get great grades. I just hung out on the streets. We lepak at the shopping centers. Turned out okay. Some of my friends didn't. Some turned out even better than me.
Right.
Now, the smart ones, the ones who are smart in school, i.e. 10 A's, are doing very average now.
Yep.
It's all the naughty fellas.
Yes.
The ones who were skipping school, smoking outside the school. They're the ones like top entrepreneurs, millionaires leading the world now, So but no kids stay in school, sorry.
So what do you think is the modern system to success? What's the formula?
Dude, it's I see.
So your version of it.
My version, okay, depends on success. So
what's the definition of success?
So I've come to a point now. To me, success is actually happiness. In my early ages, you would have, success is X amount of money in the bank, or this level of achievement, or having done this or done that. And I know I'm sounding like an old person, but as you get closer to a certain point, you suddenly realize, at the end of the day, once you're dead, none of that will really matter because you're dead. Unless you're Chinese and they'll burn it and then you can enjoy it up there.
You up there.
But, really, what is success? I think I can say this now, and it may change 10 years from now. Success is having left a space, a place, a country, a family, better off than when you arrived. Nice. Even if it's a room. If you come into the room and it looks like this, when you leave, make sure it's not dirtier and perhaps a little bit cleaner. So take that concept and then put it into your bigger life. So I would think that, how do you gauge it? But I would think that's a pretty successful life. If you didn't screw up or screw other people over, and you were just a good person, and other people, including yourself, benefited from what you brought when you were in this space.
So simply put, it is like leave the world better than what you found.
Yeah.
So what influenced your thinking? Like, how did you get to this point?
Wow. Yeah. So I'm sounding very Zen and Buddha, aren't I? No. Yeah. What influenced the thinking? You know what? Over the years, I actually suddenly realized, okay, I've been doing stand-up comedy for 33 years. Oh, great. Got those awards that you mentioned. Oh, whoopee-doo. But then what? The but then what moments have come to me throughout the years. I'm going to jump straight into this story because I know you got a question in there probably like, what was your greatest comedy moment or comedy show or whatever. I tell you what, my great moment for me was, I had a comedy club called the Joke Factory.
Yep.
For 5 years. I used to do a show called Making Shit Up, which is a improvised comedy show. We do it every couple of Wednesdays. Lots of fun and ha ha ha. And then the pandemic, shut down, slowly open, social distancing, blah, blah, blah. Club opens again. And then on one particular show, I did Making Shit Up again. People come in 2s, 3s, 4s, 5, 6, 10 people. In this particular show, there's one lady sitting at the back by herself. And then I do the show where I pick on the audience, da-da-da-da-da. And then after the show, she comes up to me. And I say, thank you for coming to the show. And she says, yeah, the last time I was here, before the pandemic, with my husband. Oh wow. What happened? Where is he? He had died during the pandemic of COVID. And that night was the first night she came out without him. And she decided to come to this space where the last time she had to come with him and remember where they had a great time. And she said, thank you that, I just wanted to come here and I got no words for it, but that moment to me was like, wow. Yeah. That's, if you want to say, that's for me, that's success. Not, hey, look at me, I made this woman happy, ha ha ha. But she had chosen to come back to space for whatever reason, to remember her husband or whatever, to connect to a previous happier time. So, yeah, there are a few moments like this where then I reevaluate, is success getting $50,000 or is that success? To me, I'm like, okay, she has now got she's leaving the room better than when she's been feeling the last couple of years. And I thought, okay, job done. But, there's no level of happiness, success I can lay to that other than, okay, job done. Well, that wasn't my job, but I'm glad I did it,
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. That's really, I think that's the ultimate reward for people like you, who...
Oh, money is good as well.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, money is very important. Zig Ziglar, he put it the best. He said money is not important, but it's as important as oxygen. Right? So if you have a lot of money, you're not going to be happy. Yeah. But if you don't have money, you're sure going to be unhappy. Yeah, so it has that, the reverse thinking there. So I want to go back one more time to your parents.
Okay.
So you share about that before. You want to give us just a bit of background about what they were doing? And
my late mother was English, from England, as most English people usually are. Came to Malaysia in 1960. My late father was Malay in the army. He was a colonel. So I grew up in a very mixed parentage household, which was... not to say rare in those days, there weren't many of us, but it was rarer than it is today. So I always grew up a little bit I was always different. And I probably used comedy to handle being picked on in school. Hey, that kind of stuff. So, but they were not your typical Asian got to get 10 A's parents. They would have loved it if I got 10 A's, but very much so just, do well and eventually, they were not as driven for me to succeed. Just do well and do better and do good kind of thing.
So where does your humor come from?
My mother.
Your mom?
She has English, just straight-faced, one-liners. She was constantly I remember constantly making people laugh, but she herself would have a straight face.
I think that's the gift of comedy.
And she would just say the funniest lines. We went to watch, I remember she was still alive, and the movie Titanic came out. Huge at the time. Probably still the highest grossing movie, or unless the other one took it over. What's the one with the blue people?
Oh, Avatar.
Avatar, that's the one. Same director. By the way, remember I hey Mom, let's go watch the Titanic. And so we rocked into the cinema back in the old days when they had the Cathay and the Odeon cinemas. She's sitting there. And then 3 elderly Chinese women with white hair grandmas are walking in. And she's looking at us, last remaining survivors of the Titanic. And I was like, Mom. And she's like, what? So
was it like sarcasm there, or is just like a?
That's a funny thing to say, and she would say it.
Okay,
and it's the first thing that came to her mind. So I grew up in this environment.
Humor. Yeah. It is not a sarcastic humor, right? No,
but she wasn't trying to entertain anyone else other than herself.
Okay,
which actually is, if you look at all what I would consider the best stand-up comedians, it's got to be funny to you first. before you can expect it to be funny to anybody else.
Yeah, they test it first.
Yeah.
So, your dad was from army.
Yes.
Was he like supportive of you pursuing comedy? The perception of army is always like...
No, I think he was always disappointed from the beginning because I was not a sports person.
Oh, he wanted sport.
He was a sporty person. Here's the thing. When I started stand-up comedy, there was no one doing it in Malaysia.
That's right.
So I had the benefit of any job you do, want to do now. What do you want to become? I want to become a videographer. I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to become a Bitcoin. I want to become whatever you say you want to become. There will be naysayers who go, "Hey, no way! Look at 1,000 people who has failed it. Or one person succeeded. 50,000 people failed. Anything." But in Malaysia, in 1990, when I first did my first show, there was no stand-up comedy. So when I started doing it, there was no one to say, "You can't do that. Look at that person. He failed. Look at that person," because no one knew what it was. So I was doing stand-up comedy, and I was also doing some comedy bits in films and TV, which is more comedy acting and stuff and comedy writing. But as a stand-up comedian, I was just rocking it alone, and there was no one to say, "You can't do it." Like now, if a kid says, "I want to be a stand-up comedian," like Harith Iskander, like Douglas Lim. But then the parents will go, "Yeah, but look at all these other useless buggers who haven't done anything with their life and, find a better job. And how much are they really making?" So there's a reference point.
Yep.
In those days, there was no reference point. So I was literally just doing it.
Malaysian reference point.
No Malaysian reference point. But there's no cultural history. In Malaysia, there's no culture of stand-up comedy. When I was growing up in the 70s, there was sketch comedy. Sketch comedy is still big in the Bahasa Malaysia world. Comedians did sketch comedy, i.e. put on a hat, a wig, put on a voice, play two characters, usually, the straight guy and the fall guy, smart guy and the stupid guy. And they would, talk about scenarios. No one got up and said, "Hey, have you ever noticed why there's an ambulance sound at the back when you're trying to record a podcast?" Something that actually happens. So stand-up comedy is that. Stand-up comedy is personal experience. So that does not exist in Malaysian cultural history. So when I came along, I was doing it alone, and now there's a lot of people doing it. But so in my first 12 to 15 years, I was educating the audience as to what stand-up comedy was as I was doing it. I only did corporate shows. Corporate show, if you ever work in a corporate company, you got the opening speech by your CEO, then you got the first course, then you got the dance performance, and you got a magic show, and then sometimes there's a singer, and then suddenly this guy would get up on stage and tell funny stories. And I can see people eating, then they're laughing, then eating, then they're laughing, and then you can see them sort of looking, actually, what's he doing? Does he work with our company? Why? He's telling funny stories. I'm laughing. And they'll come up to me later and go, "Hey, brother, your talk show, very good. Very funny, like your talk show." Because there was no culture of stand-up comedy unless you were foreign educated or you had exposure to, in those days, VHS videotapes of stand-up comedians. But the general public had no idea what it was.
Sure. So, it's funny you mentioned a couple of things about like Douglas Lim doing talk, while he's like, people are eating. So he was saying that in the last season we have him also. So he was saying that the worst type of comedy is when they bring like shrimp.
Yeah, they bring out the prawns.
The prawns, and that's the moment that you would be like, "Oh no, everyone is already gone."
So here's the thing: Douglas Lim and myself both started out.
Yes,
I started out first. I actually gave him his first break. In the corporate world, because there were no stand-up comedy clubs. You only worked corporate. And in a corporate stand-up comedy, it's a completely different game. In America, there are people that do corporate stand-up comedy that don't do club stand-up comedy. There are people that do cruise ships stand-up comedy that don't do corporate and they don't do club. Then there are people that do Christian-based stand-up comedy. They don't do clubs, they don't do corporate, they don't do cruise. It's so specific. In Malaysia, you got to be the master of none and do everything. But corporate is 100 to 1,000 people coming for their corporate annual dinner, and they're going to be getting their nasi goreng and their prawns and their chicken and all. You on stage are almost interrupting the good meal they're about to have. So you got to find a way to exceed the prawn. There you go.
Yeah. So one thing about both of you in common as well is that he also, his father is from army as well.
Yes, father, I think was in the Air Force, a helicopter pilot.
Air Force Army. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that. So you, how was the process look like? So how did you go on mentoring him and helping him to become who he is?
As he tells this story, I have no recollection of this because I have the memory of a goldfish. It was, I think, late 90s or maybe early 2000s. There's a show called AIM, Anugerah Industry Music Malaysia, and I was doing a stand-up comedy bit during the show. Douglas Lim started off as a busker. He told you that.
Yes.
He wanted to be a singer-songwriter. Yes. He was an English teacher. So, he'd rock up with his 20-kilogram amplifier and his guitar and like that. And then he just saw me come stage like empty-handed, get given the mic, walk on stage, do my thing, walk off, hand the mic off. And then he was like, being really lazy. Then Douglas Lim is like, wow, that is so easy. Why am I carrying all this? So he literally said, I don't want to do this. I want to do that. And he came to talk to me and like, how do I do stand-up? How do I do that? And I think I gave him a couple of opening spots at shows I did and all. And that's, it started because basically Douglas Lim was lazy. Yeah. Okay. Just didn't want to lug his amp around. Laziest Chinese fly and all. Useless bugger. Anyway.
Okay, we didn't say that. You said it.
No, he'll tell you himself. Actually, no, he's very hardworking now. It's a bit embarrassing.
Yes.
He's letting himself down. He's doing videos and all. Douglas, what's going on, bro? Anyway.
So you've been around for a very, very long time. You've been doing this for 30 years, right? How does the audience change? Have you seen people change? Are we okay? Like people are funnier back then, or now they are like more.
Okay, it's not the audience's change; it's the medium, the platform that changed. So when I started, there was no social media. In fact, when I started, there was no internet. Then internet came in. Any smarty pants out there? Remember when the first internet, when you had the phone, camera guys laughing, and you couldn't make a phone call or be on the internet. You had to choose one of the two, and then you'd be on the internet downloading some interesting science papers, and that would be interrupted by the phone call. I didn't download anything other than interesting science journals. Just letting you know, you people out there been thinking something else. So then broadband came about. I think it was about 2005, 2006, where then YouTube became accessible. And that is when I would say stand-up comedy as an industry, not yet an industry, started, because it's 2005. All these then 19-year-olds are watching YouTube and Def Jam comedy and this comedy, and then they're cobbling together and they're going to bars and clubs and restaurants and saying, can we put on an open mic night? And they put an open mic night. Then they hear about this guy called Harith Iskander who does corporate shows. They're all 19. They don't work in a corporate company. They've never seen a show. Who'd been doing it for 15 years. So then they contact me and say, hey, we're doing this show. Can you come and watch us and give us some ideas? So I came to watch them. First time I remember at the Actors Studio. And Kevin J was there.
Okay.
Andrew Neto and a few other people. And then that was the birth of what is stand-up comedy in Malaysia. Because then you had a little pool of little ducklings all learning how to swim. And then this older duck was like, wrong, right. So then it's fine. But what happens with social media is now everything you do is in your hand and available everywhere instantly. So when I started, if I performed in front of 100 people, the only people who knew about what I said were those 100 or 1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Now you can perform in front of 100 people. Somebody records it, takes it out of context, puts it online, and then 33 million Malaysians, or at least 2 million Malaysians, get upset and offended by what you've just said. Whereas what you just said was in front of 100 people who all laughed and all understood the context.
Yeah.
Everything is contextual. We're sitting here talking to each other with two huge microphones, which now make sense.
Yep.
back in the day, when you were in the early TV days, you didn't show the microphone. The microphone was off screen because that was how it was done. Now it's contextual. If somebody woke up now from 1982 and suddenly saw this, they'd be like, hey, I can see the microphone. Hey, I can see the microphone. And they, no, dude, that's how it's done now. It's contextual. Everything. So now, has the audience changed? I don't think the audience changed. The audience in front of you has not changed. The audience on social media, which you have no control about,
That's right.
has never happened before and is happening now. So that's how it's changed, which brings with it certain ways of doing things. So, for example, in the States, when the big acts travel, Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle, I saw Dave Chappelle in Bangkok. You go, you give your camera and they put it in a little black bag and they lock it up, and there is 0 cameras in the room, in the hall, even if it's 1,000 people at the show. So you never get any selfies at a stand-up comedy concert because they have the power to take away the phone because they understand the power of contextuality. So, to answer your question, audience haven't changed, context has changed.
So when I was looking up at some of your social media activities, I would say you're one of the most spontaneous commentator as well. So when you see something like, going on from, it doesn't matter, race, religion, you just, as a Malaysian, you comment about it, and you're very involved in a lot of like hot topics out there.
Okay.
And so first, like, how do you choose what to comment on? Like, what's your measurement there?
Okay, my measurement from a personal level is, number one, does it deserve a comment? And then even if it deserves, here's the thing, and I'm stealing this line from Ricky Gervais. Right now, everyone is a commentator. Everyone say, hey guys, here's what I think of the thing. Not everyone is qualified, smart, has justification to comment. So I'm very wary that, actually, end of the day, who am I really? Who am I to be able to say something that people need to listen to? However, contextually, that's changed. We've got the new word, not new anymore, influencer. Oh, I'm an influencer. If you said that 15, 20 years ago, you needed to be, you needed to be Anthony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey or Prime Minister of a country to claim you had any influence over anyone. But now everyone's an influencer, thereby giving everyone the right to think that they have something important to say. So what is my gauge? I'm very wary of not just saying anything, but wait a minute, do I know enough about this topic? Really? And even when I think I do, I'm like, but I don't. And anyway, so it will then lead into, am I passionate about what I'm about to say? Then I don't pass off as what I'm saying is right. I'm just saying these are my feelings about what I think is right or wrong. There are no right or wrongs. There are things that, in my opinion, things that work or don't work. There's no real right or wrong. Everyone has a different right or wrong. So I need to be passionate about that. Yeah, I got to be passionate about it. And I think many times, am I qualified to say something about this? So yeah.
Have you read the book Born a Crime from Trevor Noah?
Not read the book.
But you know Trevor Noah.
Yes, definitely. Know him very well.
He's also like, mixed, what do you call it, Swedish, South African, if I'm not mistaken. So he also mentioned a very interesting, back to the point that just now you mentioned that what comedy does is it was kind of like a lifeline for him. That, he actually can talk about very divided issues, racial issues, and you can look at it from the lens of comedy. And you can bring people who are coming from a completely different, background and race and religion and, put a smile on their face. And it makes people actually to have a better debate on stuff, right? So how do you, I have seen that you do exact same thing, meaning that you're using the comedy to kind of cool down the topic, but hey, you know what? When the emotion is low, logic is high, right? So use comedy to achieve that.
Bang on the butt, nail on the head. Comedy is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to actually handle topics which are, in Malaysian terms, sensitive, or may be of bring some hurt. And I'll give you a very clear example. All comedy has a victim. All comedy deals with pain. What do I mean by that? What is a classic black and white film comedy gag? Man walking on the street, slips on a banana peel, woo, bang, bang, ha 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 ha, laugh. Take away everything else. It's a painful moment. Someone has just potentially broken their back. Why do we laugh at someone who has potentially broken their back? Because that's what comedy does. Comedy releases and allows you to handle, deal with, look at a difficult situation without delving into the darkness of it and just releasing it. The Irish, when they pass away, they have a wake where they get drink at the person's funeral and drunk and tell funny stories. That, anybody at my funeral, I guarantee you, people are going to be going there telling the most embarrassing stories about me and to each other. And also, do you remember this joke? He said, do you remember? And they're going to be laughing. Now, I did a 1-hour special on my late brother. My late brother was a heroin addict, and he lasted way long. And all my few friends who go cycling and play paddle and don't drink or smoke, but he lasted longer. You're laughing at that. But we're talking about a dead brother who died of heroin. I did comedy 30 minutes to 40 minutes on him, unplanned, at a comedy show once. And people were like, ha, laughing, and then almost crying, and then laughing and crying. And people came up to me afterwards, more than one, and actually said to me, hey, Harith, wow, I've got a cousin in the same situation, or I've got my uncle is in the same situation. But thank you, because they were able to see. Now, if you ask me why did I do that, it was cathartic. I think it was just a release. But I'm not going, oh, what a sad story, but his life and whatever pain he caused. I'm like, here is how I'm going to make that. Here's how I'm going to deal with that, which is why. Douglas does it as well, and Trevor Noah is absolutely correct. Right now, I feel Malaysia's in dire need of some rebalance, perhaps a stop to the slide where I think the country is heading to. And comedies, I'm going to be using comedy, and I am using comedy as a tool, and a few other people, to, hey dudes, look at this topic. At the moment, you're all red or black, you're all blue or green, you're positive, negative. If you're not with me, you're against me. And it's all this, comedy can bring both sides together and have them just for a moment go, okay, I see the funny side of this highly irritating thing that's happening to us. Now let's see how we can deal with it. Can't cover all of that in one podcast, but yeah, Trevor,
that's a complete podcast by itself.
Yeah.
What I like about the way you do all these comments is that you're also very authentic. You're just being yourself. And when I was doing preparation for this podcast, I noticed that you mentioned that there was this quote from you, say like, the most amazing comedy artists are the one who are very authentic, right? So authenticity by itself, it has double side. There are a lot of cases that I think there's a lot of we had this conversation with Douglas as well in our season 1, that he went through depression. There was a lot of actually other comedian who has gone through the similar situation as well. I mean, of course, the biggest one is Robin Williams, and even Trevor Noah talk about it as well. So they said they had this term. They say actors, comedians, often they're wearing the mask of depression, meaning that on the outside, the world wants you to be funny. The world wants you to be joyful. You bring fun to the whole place, but deep inside, you actually having a lot of like issues, troubles that you go through. So how this question I want to ask, like not only for comedian, I want to ask about for everyone out there. How can you remain authentic when on the outside, the expectation for you to be a positive person, but deep inside, you have that negativity, problem, trauma, whatever you're going through?
Deal with that question in a couple of levels. Back to the beginning. Yes, the best comedy, I believe, is authentic. Any young comedian comes up to me and, bang, encapsulated in a small story. I was asked to judge Bahasa Malaysia stand-up competition, and this kid came up to me and said, "Bang, my English not so good." And I'm like, make that the first thing you say on stage.
Yeah.
Just get up. Once you're authentic, the audience allows you to make mistakes, to trip, to fall, to be stupid.
Mm.
They're like, okay, his English not so good, I will go with it. He went up on stage, and first thing he said, yo, what's up, my bros? And I'm like, that wasn't the kid I just saw. And of course, he failed completely. And I was like, kenapa? Because he thought that's what stand-up comedians do.
Yeah.
What's up? Put your hands up in the air. And what's up? Give me a cheer. So, yeah, be authentic. That doesn't mean be real. Two different things. Just remain authentic to yourself. How do... I am in no position to give any advice about dealing with depression or whatever. But yeah, I can imagine, not just with stand-up comedy, maybe a little bit more, but in any field, if you are not feeling utmost 100% inside mentally as well as physically as well, it must be difficult to get through your day or your job. And with a comedian, yes, you're expected to be funny all the time, which is it's part of the job. So everyone expects me to be funny.
Yeah.
And then 25 seconds after meeting me, I'm like, what's wrong with him? You know? And no, that on Netflix is not. It's him, but it's just another side of it.
Yes.
So I don't know personally. Oh, I can give you an example. People say, "Hey, what happens if you've had a bad day? How do you do a show?" If you have a show, it's booked in. That's a commitment. Irregardless of what has just happened, had the hugest fight with your wife or your, business fell through the floor, you got a show for that 30 minutes or 45 minutes. You are now at work. If you have a job, it's the same thing. You go into a job. Boss, my wife just argued with me. So, get your job done.
Yeah, expect.
Handle it later. Same with comedy. Only a couple of times I have had to pull out of a show. One was when the Highland Towers came down in 1993. Cut a long story short, Highland Towers came down, national tragedy. At the time, no social media, so news is slowly come out throughout the day. Had a show that night, but I said to the organizer, client, I don't think it's appropriate for me to... Everyone's talking about this national tragedy, potentially 100 people dead. I don't think it's right to go up and do comedy. And he agreed with me. Two was my mother passed away, and I had a show in Penang. I had to explain to the client, this is the reason I'm not coming, and I don't think I can, and they totally understood. Other than that, is do the show, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I can't imagine.
So people say like comedy is a gift, like being a comedian is a gift. So what percentage of it do you think it's a gift? Which percentage of it, like, you can actually learn that, you can acquire that skill set?
Okay.
Humor.
There is no set answer to this. Let me give you a couple of examples. Douglas Lim, since we've mentioned him a few times, probably not a gifted comedian, and I'll explain what I mean by that. but works incredibly hard at his craft, that comes out as one of the best comedians.
Agree?
Jim Carrey, as a comedy actor, totally gifted, and probably works very hard, but that is a gift. There is no one who has that gift, and therefore he is Jim Carrey, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what is the percentage? I know. Here's the thing. I don't think I'm the funniest person I know. In fact, I'm far from the funniest person.
What's your own percentage?
Now, my own percentage would say I was blessed by growing up in a household where I had a mother who had that sort of pass me down gift. So that helped. And then, but with parents who allowed me to think outside the box and not necessarily have to be a policeman, fireman, engineer, whatever it is we were asked to say when we were in primary school. Cikgu, nak jadi apa? Cikgu, askar, police. Which still happens, by the way, when I visit schools. So I was blessed with those gifts, which then allowed me to explore the inner gifts. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who I wanted to do this, but just didn't have the household, the context to be allowed to explore that. In my case, I would say 50 to 60% blessed to have that gift. And the second part is you got to be smart enough to see it, to notice it, to work at it.
Yeah.
Because, as I explained earlier, when I first started, nobody was doing it. And I was just, people, I do a show, someone saw me, asked me to do another show. Someone saw me, asked me to do another show. And I was just rocking along. And then only at one point I had to stop and go, wait a minute, this is earning me more than I am in my regular job. I need to now work out how to do this well if I'm to continue. So then I put into play, every time someone went overseas, I would say, give me a comedy book, comedy LP, comedy CD, comedy video, comedy VHS, comedy DVD. And I would just consume, because that was my sekolah, that was my school, my reference
Learning
point.
from others.
Learning from others.
Yeah.
No one could teach me at the time.
Yeah.
So, but then that needed me to think that way, as opposed to, I'm the only one, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think Richard Dawkins, he put it the best way. He said, adults who only learn from their own trial and error will always lose to people who learn from other people's trial and error.
Yes.
Okay. So, to finish things off, we have a very quick game called Final Confessions. So I'm going to ask you some very fiery questions.
Oh, no, not yet. Okay.
Not yet, right?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so your answers has to be like super fast, super quick. Don't think too much. Yeah. You ready?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, let's do it. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs. Okay. So who is your favorite late night or daily show host?
Trevor Noah.
Okay. Which comedian inspired your art the most?
Eddie Murphy.
Oh, nice. What's the weirdest job you ever had before getting into comedy or acting?
Driver. Yeah, a driver driver to pick up VIP guests for an opening of a club.
Oh, nice.
I was 19.
Okay. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Hotel California.
Oh, me too. Me too. We should do this thing. We should do
It's the second Malaysian anthem, national anthem.
Very nice, very nice. If you could have done comedy with anyone, living or dead, right? So to join you in your comedy, who would you do it with?
Oh, currently it's Ricky Gervais. Just insane.
Okay. So if you could choose to act with any local or international actors, who would you who would like to play with?
As mentioned just now, just to be in the presence of Jim Carrey, who I find out is actually the most boring, introverted person off screen.
Okay. So what's the funniest things ever happened to you on the set?
Funniest thing ever happened to me? A very quick story. Corporate show, got up there, 600 people, started doing my stand-up. First minute, no laughter. Second minute, no laughter. Third minute, like... and I can hear the waiters at the back kind of chuckling, but the rest of the audience, they're not being rude, they're just like that. And I'm like, and then after 8-10 minutes, zero laughter. I had to just literally cut my set short and, hey, thanks everyone, sorry, whatever, and just walked off. Went back to the agent and was like, listen, you take back my payment. I screwed up there. Yeah, no, don't worry. They're all Korean, they don't understand English. And
my goodness.
Why get me? Like, he was like, no, it's okay. They don't understand English.
Who was the organizer?
I think there was one CEO who was Malaysian.
He loved you.
And he was there. But then it's like, yeah, you couldn't write something like this. Because it was just hell for that 8 minutes. Absolutely.
I think you have gone through massive trauma at that point itself.
And then, yeah,
you question your
question. I was ready to give back. Like, no, I did such a terrible job. You can't pay me for this.
Okay, so what's the proudest things you have achieved in your career?
Like I said, the story at the beginning, just moments like that. I'll drop another very, very quick moment. Very early on, late 90s, I was performing every first Sunday of every month at the Actors Studio, Dataran Merdeka, small studio, 100 people. People would come. I did every first Sunday of every month. One day after the show, a couple come up to me, man and a wife, in the 50s. Hi, Harith. We just drove down from Kelantan for your show. I'm like, wow, that's 6 hours. Thank you so much. Would you come to Kelantan to do a show for us? I'm like, yes, I've never done a show in Kelantan. Exchange numbers. This is before social media. They called me, agreed on a price. I said, this is my price. Flew me up to Kelantan. Get there. They picked me up at the airport. I said, that's kind of weird. This elderly couple picked me up. Then get to the hall. And then I found, what is it? What's the whole dinner about? They are doctors and they have a private clinic and they handle battered women issues and all women issues on Kelantan women who are too poor, too ignorant, have no education, who have, rape, marital rape and otherwise, and they have a safe house and they treat all these women. And they have this dinner to raise funds for them to continue running this free clinic. And I'm like, you guys drove all the way to from Kelantan to get me. When I gave you my price, they didn't ask for discount. They're like, no. And at no point did they go, this is for charity, which you get that 100 times, 1,000 times. Everyone's got a charity. And so anyway, cut a long story short, I donated my fee back to the clinic, and I said to them, anytime, call me. And since then, I think I've been there back 3 times. And that's only proud because I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
These are Malaysians. This is what I call being Malaysian. There are people like this who care for others. So if I can help them do that, yeah, because I can't treat women with battered issues, So, and this is when I say what my proudest moment is that I could help them do that in some small way. If you know what I mean.
So if you'd been given the chance to become the Prime Minister of Malaysia, instantly, with all the power comes with it, what would you change?
Are we being recorded? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Education. Not gonna happen in overnight. Education is most important because all, if not every problem we have today has arisen at some point because many people are not educated. And I don't mean educated in better maths, better science, better English, better bahasa Malaysia, better Jawi, better agama. Education to being open to see that you, Mr. Malaysia, are in this country of 33 million people, and the rest of the billions of people in the world don't care about you, have their own problems, have their own issues, that if you are offended by something found on someone's jeans or any other item of clothing, offense is in your hands. Meaning, and I'm not demeaning the issue, I'm saying be educated enough to stop, take a look at not what is offending you, but take a look at yourself on why you are offended, because that if you heal that, if you solve that, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, if everyone has the ability to go, I was offended, but here's why, and I'm going to deal with it myself. Everyone take responsibility for yourself. Don't be a champion of others and save this person and save that person and save this person. Education in terms of let's be able to look at ourselves and see what makes us not better persons that work. I categorize it to work and don't work. Something that works for society. That's all. That's what I mean by education.
All right. Thank you, Harith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
It's a joy talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. So remember, life is too short not to find humor in it. Till now next time, keep smiling, keep laughing, and keep enjoying the life.